The Benarus Moray Vintage is a classic summer hit. It's fresh, yet retro. It's bold, yet simple. It is a microbrew watch that hits all the right notes. And in this review, I will not only be covering technical specifications, but talking about how this watch could suitably fit in an aficionado's collection. I call this Benarus Moray Vintage an aficionado's watch intentionally. This is a watch that you get if you have the sickness, as some watch idiot savants like to call it. The idea is that this is not a watch that you would probably own purely out of necessity. First of all, a microbrew watch like this is only going to be one that you're going to be familiar with if you're in on the microbrew watch scene. Furthermore, it's also a watch that, thanks to its fairly large, for lack of a better way of putting it, its technical specifications, this is not a watch that most people are going to want to wear every day. It's a weekend watch. It's a fun summer watch. And it's built to handle all of the kind of things that you'd be doing during the summer. Benarus is a well-regarded microbrew brand. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean that this is a boutique brand watch that offers their models in limited batches. Now, there's a variety of dials in the vintage series. This is VM03, and each of those are also limited. Now, the Moray model itself goes back to 2010, and it's been in production in one form or another with different specifications since then. I actually had the very first Benarus Moray, the version 1, back then, and I was very impressed with the quality of the watch then, and really enjoyed it. Of course, as a crazy collector, I sold it for something else, but I'm very happy to have this back in the collection. Notice the extremely simple bezel here, with indices just at the 5-minute marks. Of course, we have the raised lume pip here, and that is a lume pip that has actual lume in it, so that's very nice. On the dial, of course, we have beautiful simple Arabics, no minute indices, only the 5-minute mark. This is kind of a nod to a very simple dive watch that this resembles a lot, a Panerai. Now I want to get this out of the way. Benarus has had a lot of success with their cushion case Moray model for a long time. And in my opinion, they've never attempted to take the cushion case in a way that's a homage. They're really doing something fresh and different with this style, taking it kind of like a very basic form that you're going to build off of. It's not really doing something that Panerai is doing at all. First of all, because this is actually very affordable at $480. Second of all, because this is a lot more fun and casual than the direction that Panerai's gone. In a lot of ways, this is a watch that is meant to just be worn and enjoyed. It's not really a watch that fits in a collection as a trophy piece, I guess. The straightforward Arabics and simple bezel are complemented by this gorgeous, huge acrylic crystal. Of course, vintage watches always utilized plexiglass crystals before mineral and sapphire crystals were developed, and they have a very useful purpose. They are able to be designed with a level of water resistance, 300 meters, that is going to make this a proper, suitable dive watch if you were to so use it that way. But it also just has a lot of character. These acrylic plastic crystals just give a dial a lot of depth. Vintage collectors will tell you that maintaining a acrylic crystal is really not that difficult. Basically, all you need is a Cape Cod cloth or some kind of polishing compound combined with the cloth to take out the really minor scuffs. In the event of a larger or more significant crack or dent, this is something that could be replaced in a very straightforward way by a competent watchmaker. The glossy radial finish blue dial here is just lovely, and in all lights it takes on a lot of character. One of the things I really like about the Benarus brand is their subtle attention to detail, not missing the finer points of a watch when they're able to achieve it. And an example is how nicely this crown is executed. Not only do you have a perfectly integrated logo there on the crown, done better, frankly, than some big brands, it really is a pleasure to use and handle. It takes a number of threads for it to unscrew all the way, and it doesn't pop out with any force. And it has two settings. One, which is basically for if there was a day here, and then the second, which shows that this movement is hackable. And this is what's really interesting about this, is that being hackable, you're going to be able to get fairly precise times if that's a concern. Now, obviously, without the minute indices there, precision is going to be somewhat lacking, but frankly, most people are going to be fine eyeballing it. Pushing in that crown, getting the movement back running, you can screw in the crown very comfortably, very consistently, very smoothly. And it seats very comfortably in the case. It's just well done. It's a very simple crown, a large crown, and I like that. This is definitely one departure from Panerai that is actually simpler and arguably even more tasteful. Real divers are going to be interested in hearing that this has a 120 click unidirectional bezel. Each click is solid and articulate, and it remains a easy bezel to use whether you're making slow adjustments or fast ones. Also, the bezel lines up perfectly well. This is a nice thing, another nice way that the quality control is shown in this Benarus compared to other micro brands. The perfect centering and really perfect execution of all the parts. The Miyota 9105 movement made by Citizen is basically direct competition to base level ETA movements. It has a hacking feature, a good beat rate of 28,800 BPH or beats per hour, and it's a considerable improvement over the previous generation Miyota movement that we sometimes find in older microbrew watches, the 8215. I'd say movement finishing is an improvement over basic Seiko 7S movements, but definitely not as nice as a movement that you'd find on a nice Swiss watch like this Omega Railmaster. It is cool to see the Benarus brand printed on the rotor. I don't think the movement is necessarily pretty enough overall to warrant a display case back. Here's a shot of the Benarus vintage on the wrist, and in my opinion, it pretty much maxes out what I can do at 7 1/4 inches, which is my wrist size. The short lugs coupled with the flat caseback make the watch very comfortable, but there really isn't any getting around the weight, which is significant, and it feels hefty, and it feels large. The strap, the beautiful strap, of course, makes the weight be evenly distributed, but there's no pretending that this is a small watch. A lot of ways, it kind of reminds you of like a Dodge Challenger or something. It's comfy, it's fun, but it's definitely big. Since the strap is the only option with this watch, I'm glad to say that Benarus did a good job with it. Attention to detail, again, here is a factor with careful embossing inside the strap, nice stitching, beautiful use of different contrasting leather, and even a little signature on the buckle. Very tasteful. We do have single-threaded screwed lug bars, and that's a sturdy kind of lug bar to have. You just have to make sure that they stay nice and tightly threaded. They will work themselves loose if you're not using some kind of blue Loctite to keep them in. Now, one way that this watch has definitely improved over the first version that I had previously is that it comes now with this excellent zipped travel case. It's a faux leather case, but the quality is excellent, and it's a very practical case. It's one that I really think I'm going to enjoy using. It's one that is perfect for traveling. Two nice big openings for watches set up so that you can carry them with straps or bracelets, and then a separate compartment, all just for straps. And that's another one of the appeals of this watch, is just how strappy it is. It's a extremely versatile option to have 24 millimeters. There's just tons of custom makers out there. But the travel case, very useful. A sign of good lume is that it glows during the day. Day lume is always awesome. And this watch is definitely competitive even with Seiko lume, which is to say that it compares with the best in the industry. As for competitive options to the Benarus, you could definitely take a look at other microbrew watches like Halios or Ocean 7. The competitive option for me would be the Seiko Sumo, which is Seiko's kind of mid-tier dive watch offering. As you can see here, the brush or satin finish on the Benarus is very nice, but it doesn't compare really to the precision and the detail of the very modern feeling 50th anniversary Seiko Sumo when it's side by side. The Sumo is really a much more modern feeling watch. The Benarus doesn't exactly feel primitive, but it feels very basic compared to the 50th anniversary Sumo here. Those things being said, the retro vibe is part of the key appeal of this watch. The awesome, huge domed acrylic crystal and the great brush dial is really something that gives the watch a ton of character. And yet it retains a lot of small, tasteful design elements for a collector who's going to enjoy those kinds of things. If you can handle the big size, if you can get over the fairly average movement details, you've got a very attractive watch that comes with a great case and is just a very fun complete package summer weekend watch. What are your thoughts or impressions of the Benarus Moray Vintage? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks a lot for your time. But the thing is, a little wipe down with a Cape Cod